Hey, Shabbat Shalom, family and friends. This week's Torah portion is number 38, and it's named Korah, in English, Korah. And it takes place in Numbers, chapters 16 through 18. The reading of the prophets, it includes 1 Samuel, chapter 11, verse 14, through chapter 12, verse 22. It includes the 98th and 99th Psalm, as well as for the renewed covenant, Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 7. And so in this Torah portion, we have a man named Korah, along with Dathan, Abiram, and On, who pretty much confront Moses and Aaron on who made them leaders of Israel. These guys were not alone in this endeavor. Scripture notes that there were 250 leaders that confronted Moses and Aaron, and they were men of renown, men that were respected throughout the congregation. So they ask Moses and Aaron why they exalt themselves above the assembly of the Lord. They note that the whole assembly is holy. So what's so special about Moses and Aaron? So Moses tries to reason with Korah, noting, hey, isn't it enough of an honor that Yah has singled you out to perform the service of the tabernacle? And Moses also tries to reason with Dathan and Abiram, and they refuse to meet with Moses. And listen to their response as noted in Scripture. They note, is it not enough that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to have us die in the wilderness? But you would also appoint yourself as master over us? Indeed, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor have you given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Would you gouge out the eyes of these men? I mean, Scripture notes that after Moses hears this, he gets angry. I mean, you could understand why this can be so frustrating. I mean, what has Moses, and it's even in Moses' response to them, like, what has he gained from all of this? I mean, he didn't get rich from these people. In fact, these people, if anything, have been a huge burden to him. I mean, and now they have the audacity to act like he's taking advantage of them. I mean, just a few chapters before this Torah portion, in Numbers chapter 11, I mean, Moses asked God to kill him because of the burden of the people being too heavy. And now they're going to complain about why he's in charge. I mean, isn't this the same guy that when God appears to them in the day of Pentecost, the first Pentecost, and God gives them, starts giving them his commandments? Isn't this the same group of people that told Moses, hey, Moses, why don't you go up onto the hill and have Yah give you the commandments? Because they were afraid and terrified. I mean, this is the same group of people. And then on a side note, they're calling Egypt a land of milk and honey. I mean, what ingrates? I mean, did they forget what slavery was like in Egypt? So the next day, it's arranged that the next day, these people that got together that to confront Moses and Aaron and their leadership, they're going to show up the next day with some censers, with fire and incense on it. So the next day comes, they arrive with their censers, with fire and incense. And the Lord tells Moses and Aaron to separate themselves from this congregation for him to wipe them out. And Moses and Aaron, they fall on their faces and plead with them not to be angry with the whole group. So Moses tells the congregation to get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And the Lord demonstrates that Moses and Aaron are the true leaders, are going to be the true leaders designated by Yah, by pretty much swallowing up the tents, the possessions, and Korah, Dathan, and Abiram themselves. I mean, scripture notes that they went down to Sheol alive. I mean, I don't recall anywhere else in scripture where someone has gone that did not die, but went straight to Sheol alive. Now, I imagine some family members probably went along with them, but we know that there were certain survivors of Korah's family. I mean, in Psalms 42 and Psalms 44, I mean, it attributes those psalms written, deemed them to be written by the sons of Korah. And in fact, Samuel, the prophet Samuel, comes from the lineage of Korah. But after this occurs, where pretty much the earth swallows up the possessions and Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, I mean, their supporters see this and they just start to panic and flee the premises. Meanwhile, fire comes out of those censers that had the incense and fire on it. That the fire comes out and consumes the 250 men. These were the men, the renowned men that I mentioned earlier, the men respected by the congregation who were offering the incense. And those men, all of these supporters of Korah, these renowned men at least, they die. The priest Eleazar took the bronze censers that the 250 men that just died that they had, they hammered them out as a plating for the altar. And it's there as a reminder to the sons of Israel that no layman would approach to burn incense before the Lord. What I find interesting is that those censers of the men that died were recognized to be holy. It was acknowledged that the censers were presented to the Lord in all caps, that means to Yahweh. It wasn't like they were worshiping a false god. They recognized Yahweh for who he is, but they questioned his ways. And as a consequence of their sin, they died. In verse 30, it notes that the men were disrespectful to the Lord as they are questioning the laws and the order that was established by Yah. What gets to me is that these are probably the same people, as I mentioned earlier, that were scared during Pentecost, encouraging Moses to go up and to be the leader. But now, after things have calmed down and it's not as scary, you know, they're willing to question the authority that has been established. And really, what triggers all of this is because things are not working out the way that they were hoping it to work out. I mean, they left this land, Egypt, a land that was having them in bondage, to go to this land flowing with milk and honey. And they're looking around them, and it's been some time now, and they're not seeing the fulfillment of this promise. It's not working out the way they want. And so they feel like, you know what, I'm going to take things into my own hands. And we can learn from these individuals, because how many times do I feel like I want to take things into my own hands because it's not working out the way I would have expected it to work out? I mean, at the end of the day, we know that the world is in Yah's hands. And even around us, the things outside of our control, the people that are in leadership, they are there because Yahweh has allowed them to be there. I mean, when we go into the reading of the renewed covenant in Romans 13, chapter 13, verse 1, it notes that every person is to be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. So all that authority that people have, they only have it because Yah has allowed it. And those which exist are established by God. Those leadership positions, they exist, they're established by God. So keep in mind that the people that run the countries around the world, including the United States, our country, including Russia, were established by God. As evil and bad as things get, though we may not see any evidence of arriving to a land with milk and honey, God is still in total control and will fulfill all of his promises. And do you know how I know that these people are just angry that things are not working out the way they wanted to work out? I mean, look what happens in verses 41 through 50. Okay, and this is in Numbers 16 still. The next day, the congregation begins grumbling against Moses and Aaron, saying they are the ones that caused the death of the Lord's people. And again, Yah wants to consume them. And the very two guys, Moses and Aaron, who these people believe is an enemy, is their biggest advocate as they fall on their faces and acted to make atonement for them. I mean, and as I reflect on this, I just think about how this has occurred in my life, and you could think about how if this has occurred in your own life, as particularly during like teenage years, and how the very people that I saw as enemies, like parents or aunts or uncles or mentors or teachers, you know, people that you're seeing that because you're looking around and you're not seeing things working out the way you want it to work out. These were the very people that are falling on their knees, providing intercession for me. Moses tells Aaron to take his censer and bring it quickly to the congregation and make atonement for them, for wrath has gone out from the Lord. A plague begins among the people, and 14,700 of the congregation die on the account of Korah. You would think that this crazy situation would have set these people straight. But in the next Torah portion, we're going to see the congregation only complain again because there's no water, and only if they had perished when their brothers perished before the Lord. Now they complain if only they were dead too. And it's their lack of patience and thanksgiving that is making them miserable. So let's make sure that we learn from that congregation. As it notes in our reading of the Psalms, sing a new song to the Lord, for he has done wonderful things. His right hand and his holy arm have gained the victory for him. The Lord has made his salvation known. He has revealed his righteousness in the sight of the nations. He has remembered his graciousness and his faithfulness to the house of Israel. Later in our psalm portion, we also know that the strength of the king loves justice. You have established order. You have executed justice and righteousness in Jacob. So as we enter into this new week, let's reflect on this and let's give honor where honor is due. Shabbat Shalom.